Welcome back to Game-Based Learning in the World Language Classroom, the why, what, and how. We're on section 3 of my book, The How. I'm Madame Sensei. I teach Spanish, French, and Japanese to high schoolers out here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And if you want to help me work on these games, think of more games. I'm always looking for more games. I'm always looking to tweak the games I have. Come collaborate with me in the Minecraft Education Ambassadors or the Minecraft Teachers Lounge, Roxem, the Duolingo Educators Network, or at studio-nemo.com. We're on chapter 18. This is where I'm just going to dump in a lot of games that are super fun. They're super great. You can really target stuff, but they don't really fall into one category or another category. So I'm just going to put them all together here in this potpourri of other games. And in our previous episode, well, I had several high priority interrupts in between. So I was talking about Jenga and I was talking about physical games in the classroom, and then I was asked to speak at a Minecraft thing, so I put that in, and then I invented another game for our students, so I put that in. So we're a little out of order, but that's okay. They're all good. All right, so first potpourri game. My colleague bought one of those crossword puzzle generators, and I'm just having a field day with it, especially when I read my TPRS stories, because what's the key to success? Repetition. So when the class finishes their TPRS story, I will go back, and it was already like a Mad Libsy type thing anyway. Go back and take out some words. And nowadays I don't write 1 down 15 across. I write it in the target language, so they have to be able to read the numbers. But yeah, just make another crossword puzzle out of it. The students have to read the story one more time, and this time they're thinking about the spelling, because if you don't spell it right, it's not going to work right on the crossword. So that works really well. Sudoku. Let's talk about Sudoku. Did you know Sudoku has absolutely nothing to do with mathematics? It's simply a logic game. This is exactly the way that you're making a sentence and you're missing a word, and what's that last word going to be? It's exactly the same. Your brain's going to feel the same on it. So what I did many, many, many years ago, I took one of my old cheapo Sudoku books and I just copied it over into a Word document. I did it in a Word document so that I could easily find and replace. Okay, so like here, let me move these out of the way so you can see, just focus on one. We're working on katakana. All right, so maybe this used to be 1. Okay, so all the was 1. All right, so I'm like, I want the students to work on katakana. I go into that document and I find and replace all the 1s with and I find and replace all the 2s with ki, or however it was. And it's just simple. It's 30 seconds and I've got a Sudoku board for my class. Okay, here it's the exact same Sudoku board. I just decided to find and replace with nomimasu, find and replace with skoshi, find and replace with oi, and I've got my Sudoku board and I know it's going to work because it worked for regular numbers, okay? Here were some other kanji. So this is so easy to do. And my students have never figured out that it's the same Sudoku board all the time. But it's great because they're going to write each kanji at least 5 times. And that's what you want. I mean, heck, when I lived in Japan, I had one class. This was a regular Japanese class. Was not for foreigners or anything. Just had to write the same kanji over and over for an hour. All right, let's talk about reverse hide and seek. This one is absolutely fabulous for your prepositions of location. So I select a student to start, okay, and they get to hide a stuffed animal. I got a lot of stuffed animals. They get to hide a stuffed animal somewhere in the room. And they're going to use all the heads-up 7-up strategy they can muster. Everybody else closes their eyes. No hand in the air. That's heads-up 7-up. Everyone closes their eyes, and the person who's hiding the animal is going to stomp around. They're going to slam open the cupboard. They're going to zip open the backpacks, and they'll finally hide the stuffed animal someplace. And then I'll say, everybody open your eyes. And then I have a bunch of business cards. Students make business cards the very first day of school so they can learn how to introduce themselves. They hand each other the business card. They know how to say, hello, my name is, nice to meet you, etc. They exchange business cards. I get the business cards so I can use them in my popsicle stick approaches. So I just randomly pull out a business card, and the person who hid the stuffed animal, they have to either use an idiom with tener or idiom with avoir, or just say it's hot and cold. And they have to, the person guesses, is duo on top of the desk? No, you're cold. Or they'll say, no, duo is not on top of the desk, or whatever. So the students, I find, they really pay attention to this. A lot of whole class games, it's hard to keep everyone engaged at the same time because people who've had their turn are going to be kind of spacing out, and people who are waiting their turn are worried about what they're going to say. I find with this game, the students are really paying attention because it's kind of like 20 questions, and they're going to get hints, and they really want to be the one to guess it because then they get to hide the stuffed animal next time. All right, I've talked about this giant box of cubes that I have that I rescued from the dumpster. These are supposed to be for math class, but they're great, okay? But any tiny manipulative you have, anything that you've got enough for all your students and they can all hold, it could be cotton balls, it could be index cards, it could be whatever you want, okay? Whatever's cheap that you can find, because we're teachers, we can't afford anything, right? So I have each student grab a cube, and actually before that I teach them to say, hello, this is like the first day of school. My name is, how are you? I'm fine. Please, here you go. Thank you. And you're welcome. And I have to say, the Japanese textbook that I inherited, I'm just like flabbergasted with, because for some reason it has a very rude you're welcome in there. That I know that a lot of textbooks think, oh, well, you're Americans, you can't possibly understand the culture, and so they teach this very literal you're welcome, which is rude in Japanese. It's like saying, I've really gone out of my way to help you, you had better be thanking me, by golly. So, be culturally appropriate. So at any rate, I always have this up on the board. I always have sentence frames up on the board as scaffolds. The students who don't need it aren't going to glance at the board. The students who do need it, it's there for them. Okay, so it's differentiation. So I've got this, and we're working on these phrases here. Okay, and I have each student grab a little cube, and then they have to go around the room and mingle. They're going to come up to somebody, they're going to say, hello, my name is blah, 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 how are you? And then they're going to notice the cube in the other person's hand, and they're going to point to it, and they're going to say, please. Okay, the other student's going to hand it over with a here you go. Oops, that's behind, sorry. Okay, it's in the hand. All right. They just have to say here you go, and they change cubes, okay? Thank you, you're welcome, okay? And nobody's allowed to refuse at this stage of the game, and they have to trade cubes before they can move on to another person. So everyone is going to have one cube. Nobody's going to have 15 cubes. Then they have to say goodbye to each other. And here, I'll move this out of the way now. I wanted to illustrate. Then they move on to another student. And then I usually put like one odd colored cube in the mix. I've got one black cube, and I put that in so that I can kind of track how far they're going around the class and make sure that 3 people aren't trading with each other constantly, that they've moved out of their bubbles. But also it's kind of fun to see, hey, who started with who touched the black cube, All right, but that's the simple version. And as the year goes on, we complicate the game, okay? So first I teach some more complex sentences. Can I borrow? Or may I have? Okay, and then nobody gets to walk away until they've said the sentence properly, and they don't get a cube until they say things properly. But everyone has one cube at this stage, okay? Later on, they're going to have to ask this for the cube by color. Can I have the red cube? Can I have the green cube? If they don't say the right color, they don't get the cube, and they'll have to move on without a cube. And then they'll have to say, sorry, I don't have a cube, until they're actually able to ask for one correctly. But the students are not allowed to refuse if things are said correctly. And then the more complicated version is that I allow students to hide the cube. They get to ball their fists around. And then you have to guess the color, okay? And this is really good for working on the negative. Oh, sorry, I don't have a red cube. And then they move on. Okay, so somebody may wind up with a lot of cubes in their hands, and somebody else has none because they haven't guessed any of the colors. And they can put them in their pockets or whatever, okay? And then in the later stages, okay, whoever speaks first gets to ask for the cube, because that way they're not like, they're taking the initiative more, and they're thinking ahead to what they're going to say. Sometimes you get 2 or 3 students just trading the same cubes back or forth, and I don't want that. I want to get them out of their silent period as early as possible. Okay, then, complicate the game. Make it fun. Ask your students what they like to do, because they have good ideas too. All right, so during my prep period, if there's a colleague who's absent and we can't find a substitute, I'm generally the first one to say, hey, I'll cover that class. And I really love that because it gets me out of my bubble and it gets me seeing what my colleagues are doing. And one day I was subbing for my drama teacher colleague, and she had a game called Just Keep Swimming. And the point of the game was to make sure that the students were concentrating on what's going on stage, that they were keeping aware of it. Okay, and I thought this was going to be a really good game to teach numbers, and it really is. The students love this game. It's their comfort food. Okay, so here's how it goes. You're singing Just Keep Swimming, Just Keep Swimming. So I do nage, nage, sigue nadando, or yogi nasai, whatever I need to do. Okay, and the students are just milling around. They're just walking around, swimming around. Okay. And I take them outside the classroom for this because I'm in a portable, and so we can do it really easily in the parking lot right outside the classroom. So they're milling around, and then you call out a number, okay? You call out 2, all right? And then students have to make groups of 2 students, okay? Really quick. And pre-pandemic, they grab onto each other. Post-pandemic, yeah, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, as long as they're standing close to each other. These 2 students didn't get to each other quickly enough, and they didn't understand the word "de," so they're out, okay? Or maybe I'll give them a hint, get together, guys, okay? All right, and then I'll say, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. They go back to swimming. Everyone's swimming around. And they'll call another number, like set 7, okay? So they have to get in groups of 7, and then let's see if I get somebody out here, okay? Yeah, okay, so all these people are out. So then they come over and they help me choose the next number. All right. And so this is really good when you're first teaching numbers because it'll give you easily the numbers 1 through 20, 1 through 29. I've got classes of 36 students this year, so I can do 35 and eliminate one person immediately. All right. And it's really funny to see how their strategy goes. This is a really good comfort food game. The students love it. I don't spend like 100 million years on it. It's just like you've just learned these numbers. Let's work on them for 10 minutes. Okay, back in the classroom. And then the next day they'll ask to play it again. Okay, that's a good 5-minute break. And then if you're using the OWL method, the organic world language, this is an absolutely wonderful brain break all throughout the year. It's comfort food. It's easy. It's fun. It gets the students up on their feet so they're not going to be falling asleep. So that works really well. Oh, and I should say, let me back up. If you call out 1, everybody has to be singular. They can't be touching anyone. So you'll get people who are ready to grab someone, and they grab someone, but you've called out 1, so they're automatically out. So, yeah, mix it up. All right. In our next episode, we're going to continue talking about all these games that really don't fall into any great category, but they're fun games. They're good to have in your back pocket. Hope to see you there.